Hello MBA aspirants, in this video we shall talk about 5 tips for preparing a specialization for an MBA interview. Tip number 1, understand the challenge. There are two kinds of offerings in a management school, a general management program and a specialized one. A general management program takes you through the various functions of management in the first year and poses an opportunity to specialize in one or more functions in the second year of study. A specialized program is designed to provide inputs specific to a particular domain or function of management right from the beginning. So the difference is, whereas a general management will take you through the entire set of functions of management like marketing, finance, HR, operations, IT, a specialized program is focused exclusively on one area of management. For example, it may be a master's in human resource management or a master's in finance management. Right? So this is the core difference between the two. Knowing which function or domain to specialize in offers a distinct competitive advantage and presents you as a candidate with greater goal clarity. The message which you are passing on to the panel is that I know why I am enrolling for a management program. I have a specific liking or affinity or aptitude for marketing management. Therefore, I would like to specialize in marketing in my management program. So this kind of goal clarity really helps you to establish a better connect with the panel. It is strongly recommended that you prepare a particular function of management so that you engage with the panel on a specific note. And even if it is a general management program, say you enroll for a 2-year management program where first year will have all functions and second year you'll specialize, still if you face the panel with that clarity that this is what you want to do in your management program, it places you on a higher pedestal. It gives that competitive edge to you. And there are certain schools like SP Institute of Management which want you to come to the panel with this kind of information, with this kind of decision, that this is what you are meant for and this is why you are enrolling for the program. So all the more reason that you should prepare one function of management which you wish to specialize in. Let's look at the next tip now. Tip number 2, marketing management. Now in this slide in particular, we'll focus on marketing management as a specialization, and then we'll take on the other functions in a sequence. So marketing management, you need to understand the basic definition of marketing. Marketing, as we understand, is the process of identifying the needs of the customers and then designing a value proposition and delivering it in such a way so as to satisfy those needs and so as to justify the resources and do it more effectively and efficiently than competition. So the entire logic of marketing management is around the customer needs and then delivering them in a certain way so as to create a competitive advantage in the market. Understand how it is different from selling. Now, anybody who tells the panel that I want to prepare for a career in marketing management, he or she needs to understand how selling is different than marketing. In fact, selling is a part of marketing. So students, when they respond to this question, they give all kinds of answers, but you need to understand that marketing is a larger spectrum of activities, which begins with market research on one side and which goes up to customer relationship management on the other side. In this spectrum of activities, you have other areas like product management, like sales and distribution management, you have promotion management. So all these are a part of marketing, and selling is one specific area of marketing which deals with the exchange of money and goods. For example, the customer will pay money for the goods he or she will get. So this is a transactional part of marketing. In fact, selling is the only part of marketing which is generating revenue for this function. So whereas selling is more transactional in nature and talks about a particular exchange, marketing contains the selling function and includes many other activities as discussed previously. Be aware of the basic steps in the marketing process. You need to understand a basic model of marketing management. It begins with research, something called a market research, where the marketer will try to understand the constitution of the market. How big is the market? who are the players in that space, what is being offered to the customer, what are the requirements of the customer, what needs are there in the market. So all this begins with research. And then of course the next step is product management, where you start working on the value proposition statement called a product, a good or a service, which will satisfy those needs. For example, if you look at Maggi, this is like one of the flagship brands of Nestle. And when Maggi started its journey way back in the 80s, they were able to understand that the Indian woman has started working. She has crossed the threshold, but at the same time she has to manage her family also. So she needs something which can be panned out quickly. She needs a fast snack food, and this is the genesis of Maggi in India, and this is how Maggi happened. So this kind of a research is important for the marketer to understand what is to be offered to the customer. So product management will take the whole thing to the next level, where a specific value proposition is created to satisfy a need which was previously identified through market research. And in product management, you'll have other issues like branding. So you'll have to name your product. This name, symbol, or design which identifies the product in the market at a particular point of time is called the brand. So you'll have to figure out the branding decisions. And then of course packaging. How do you package your good so as to make it more appealing to the customer? We have seen that so many health brands like cornflakes, the whole connect with the customer is through the packaging part, which talks about nutrition facts. So this is where you are trying to create value for the customer. And then of course after product management, you move on to the next challenge, which is the pricing part. So once you've decided that this is the value which you need to offer to the customer, you also need to work out the price at which this value is being proposed. Because finally what you have to look at is the efficiency of the organization to deliver and goods and reach out to the customers. So pricing is very critical for the organization. And then we move on to the promotional aspects, which deal with areas like advertising, sales promotion, public relations, publicity, the various components of your promotional program which you wish to use so as to make your product appealing to the customer, so as to propose a value to the customer. And then we talk about distribution. Once all these issues are taken care of, the product is in place, pricing has been decided, promotional aspects have been taken care of, then the next step is reaching out to the customer through a retail or a wholesale, an online or an offline channel. So many channel decisions are important there, which are very critical to marketing. And once this happens and the customer is able to get the product, the good or the service, sales has happened. Now once sales has happened, the responsibility of the marketer does not stop there. The next big challenge for the marketer is to ensure that the customer stays not just satisfied but delighted. And this is where CRM, customer relationship management, plays a huge role. So you constantly learn from your customer, you take a feedback from the customer as to what are the gaps in the offering and how do you work on these gaps is also indicative of your marketing efficiency. So right from market research to customer relationship management is the marketing process. Understand commonly used terms in the marketing environment. We use certain terms very randomly in a very generic manner, but as a student who wishes to study marketing management, your connect with these words has to be more intense, and there has to be more clarity in understanding these terms. For example, we talk about advertising in a very generic manner, but advertising in itself has so many challenges. You talk about advertising from a perspective of above the line and below the line. So what is this ATL and BTL? We need to understand promotion from that perspective. We use the term brand equity in a very generic manner, but what exactly is brand equity? So a basic understanding of these terms is important. So in one of the subsequent videos, we'll talk about the list of marketing words which you need to appreciate, starting from something as basic as what is a market, and going on to something as intricate as a below the line promotional campaign. Appreciate the practical aspects of marketing. There have been occasions where the panel has assessed the students on this particular challenge, and they ask you very basic questions like which toothpaste do you use? I mean, you can't say you don't use one. So when you tell him or tell her that I use a Colgate or a Pepsodent, then they'll ask you, okay, have you seen the Colgate ad? What is unique about the ad? Why do you think this message is being created like this? What do you think is the approximate market share of that brand? So this kind of a practical connect is what the panel is probable to assess you on. Prepare the list of the top companies excelling in marketing management. Get relevant details with respect to these companies. You should know which are the top players in that space, the top marketing companies, and then also be prepared with certain details with respect to these companies. For example, if you're talking about HUL, Hindustan Unilever Limited, then you should know that HUL is a part of a larger group called Unilever, which is an Anglo-Dutch company, right? And how it operates in India, and a basic understanding of its marketing strategy is what you need to prepare. Prepare details with respect to any one brand or product, either domestic or international. Now, as I said a while back, they can assess you on basic questions like which brand do you connect with, which brand do you use. So you prepare one such brand and prepare the journey of that brand right from its introduction in the market to the current status. For example, if you're looking at Maggi, then Maggi was introduced way back in the 80s, 1983-84 was the year. And then how the brand has evolved and how the brand changed its positioning over the years. And finally, the problems which the brand faced recently and how it overcame those problems. The entire context has to be appreciated. Go prepared, and obviously you will stand a stronger chance. Prepare the analysis of some recent advertisements. Because when somebody says that I wish to study marketing or specialize in marketing, then they will try to explore very basic areas of connect with this function called marketing. So one such area is advertising. Since you are constantly being exposed to media like radio, TV, newspaper, so they may ask you how does media operate in terms of, say, basic ads. What do you see in those ads? What is the message? Why do you think the message is designed like this? So you should be prepared to connect with the panel from these basic dimensions. And yes, be aware of the career progression challenges in the field of marketing. Should be able to tell the panel that within marketing, am I looking at sales and distribution? Am I looking at brand management? Am I looking at advertising management? Am I looking at market research? So you should have some kind of a preliminary understanding of the function of management, because this is the genesis of your management program. This is why you wish to pursue the management program. Tip number 3. Now we take up human resource management. Those of you who wish to specialize in HRM, you need to look at the following aspects. Prepare a working definition of human resource management. Obviously, when I say a working definition, it is not a bookish thing. It is a basic understanding of this function that HRM is about utilizing and understanding the most unpredictable resource of business called human resource so as to enhance the efficiency of the organization. So understanding of human resource and then dealing with different dimensions of this resource so as to increase the overall productivity of the organization is human resource management. Understand the HRM process. You should start with areas like recruitment, then talk about selection. Then of course the next challenge is training and developing those resources. And the next is employee motivation, keeping sure that the employees are constantly motivated, and then designing the performance management system, areas like performance appraisal, where you understand that in this 1 year, this has been the performance of the resources, and this is the gap between the expected and the actual responsibility areas, and therefore the appraisal will be conducted accordingly. And then finally understanding the exit or the separation challenge. So right from recruitment till separation of human resources is what the HRM function is dealing with. Understand the commonly used terms in HRM. Now, commonly used terms would include areas like motivation, leadership, performance management. So, a basic understanding of these terms, you should be able to define these terms. They may ask you, how do you think that the human resources should be motivated? Is money the only method? So, you should be able to tell the panel that motivation is probably a dual challenge. On one side is the monetary aspect, on the other side is the non-monetary aspect. So non-monetary aspect has a larger scope for motivating the employee, and then a basic understanding of certain management motivation theories like the Maslow's theory, the Herzberg's theory. We suggest that you refer to these basic theories so you'll be able to understand these terms better. Appreciate the concept of human capital. You need to look at human resources as a primary input to the business process. It's a capital investment. So it's a human capital. It's not labor. Labor is a very derogatory term for capital. So it's human capital. So the way this human capital is being invested, being processed so as to generate the required output is what the HRM function is all about. Appreciate the challenges in contemporary HRM. Now, challenges in terms of retaining employees. We're talking about a world which is moving at a certain pace, and this world has its own challenges. There are so many organizations, there is so much movement in the corporate sector that it's very, very challenging for the organization to retain talent. So retaining talent is one of the biggest challenges. Then obviously designing methods and practices to maximize the effectiveness of the organization in terms of organizational development is another challenge. So you should be able to understand 3 or 4 basic challenges which are being posed nowadays in the function of HRM. Prepare the list of companies with good HRM policies, both domestic and international. For example, if you talk about companies like Infosys, Tata, these are companies which have thrived on ethics and values. The whole offering is around ethics and values. So understanding basic challenges like vision and mission of the organization, culture, value system, this is what you're supposed to do. Understand the international challenge in HRM. When you're talking about a globally connected world, when you're talking about a flat world, when you're talking about a world where the economies are organically linked, we obviously talk about the movement of resources, human resources, from one part of the world to another. So this is where the international HR challenge builds up. So the same organization may be operating in different countries. We call these multinational corporations. So multinational corporations based in a certain country and operating in certain other countries, how should they adapt to the culture of that particular country or ecosystem, and how should they create the HRM policy, keeping in mind the larger policy of the organization? This is the global challenge. Understand career progression challenges in HRM. You should be able to differentiate between personnel management, industrial relations, and the overall concept of human resource management. Tip number 4, finance management. Now this is where we look at this critical area, this critical function of management called finance. Prepare a working definition of finance management. Finance management is planning, organizing, directing, and controlling of finance or financial activities like procuring and utilization of funds for the enterprise, so as to increase the profitability and efficiency of the organization. So basic understanding of finance management should be there, should be in place, should be there for you. Understand the commonly used terms in finance management, and this is important. If you need to understand finance as a function of management, you need to start with the functions of finance, and as you explore the functions of finance, you will come across certain terms. For example, the primary function of finance, the first and the foremost function, is understanding capital requirements. Then we talk about capital composition. Once you decide that this is the kind of capital which the organization needs, then the next challenge is understanding the mix of debt and equity. If you know that this is the equity structure of the organization, then how much of the capital has to be outsourced? So the next step is raising funds, sources of capital, where you talk about issuing shares and debentures, you talk about borrowing from banks, loans, you talk about public deposits through loans. So as you move along, as you understand the basic challenge of the branch of this function, you will also come across terms which you need to appreciate. Appreciate the concept of value maximization. Finance is not just about profits anymore. Finance is about a larger responsibility called value maximization. So we have moved from profit maximization to wealth maximization to finally value maximization, where the effort of the organization is to maximize value for all the stakeholders. Right? So this has to be appreciated. The banking sector, yes, prepare the banking sector, because this is core to finance. Finance has two areas, banking and non-banking. So banking is one huge responsibility there. You need to understand the role of the central bank. You need to understand commercial banks. You need to understand the monetary policy, that it's a bi-monthly statement, and you need to understand the various rates over there, like cash reserve ratio, like the repo rate, reverse repo rate, bank rate. So all this has to be appreciated. Only then you can say that I have an interest in this function of management and I want to explore it further, so as to consolidate my career in this domain. Prepare challenges around the stock market. For the panel, one of the main ways of connecting with finance is through the stock market, the BSE. You need to understand, if you're looking at the Indian market, then of course the Bombay Stock Exchange and other stock indices, and the global market would also get terms like NASDAQ and other stock indices. But a basic understanding of how the stock market works and how the environment plays a role in the fluctuation of share prices, why do shares fluctuate, and what should be done when this happens, this is what we suggest. Prepare the budget and the economic survey. Now the budget becomes a very important statement every year. The budget comes in and the government declares how the money has to be used and what are the financial implications for different stakeholders. So this has to be understood, and the economic survey of the country is equally important, which talks about the economic health of the country, and you need to understand various terms which define the economic health of the country. For example, terms like GDP and GNP, they need to be differentiated and understood. Prepare career progression challenges in the domain of finance management. People talk about areas like investment banking. Now, investment banking is a whole challenge in itself. You can't just say investment banking and then not know about it. You need to understand that investment banking is that function of finance, of banking, which is dealing with creation of capital for the organizations, for government and other entities. So you're basically responsible for creating capital for these entities, and then of course you're providing financial consultancy to these organizations as to how the capital should be used so as to maximize your investment, your funds. So this has to be understood from a certain perspective. Finally, the fifth step, other functions or domains of management. It's not just marketing, HR and finance. It could be so many other areas. For example, we have operations management. Operations management is the administration of business practices to maximize the efficiency of the organization. There is a part of operations management which deals with production management, which is about converting material and labor and these inputs into final goods and services. So it deals with the transformation of production and operational inputs into outputs, which when distributed to the customers will satisfy their needs. So this function will have other challenges like quality management, inventory management. So a basic understanding is what we suggest that you should have. IT management, which is about generating value through utilization of information technology resources. The management of various IT resources like hardware, software, data, networks, data centers, and the people who are controlling these resources so as to increase value for the organization. International business management. Now, companies are operating in a global setup. We are reaching out to customers everywhere. As an organization, we need to understand the dimensions of domestic and global challenges. That if I'm operating in market X and I want to enter market Y, so what should be my strategy? Should I offer the same set of goods and services, or should I customize those goods and services to adapt to the new culture, the new ecosystem? For example, McDonald's, when McDonald's entered the Indian market, they never offered pork as one of the offerings there. They adapted very well to the Indian taste bud, the Indian preferences and the value system. So you need to do some kind of research and then decide what should be the marketing strategy or the management strategy globally if you are a multinational corporation. All these challenges are dealt with in international business management. Strategy. Now, strategy is a very challenging function of management. It's a domain which deals with the various steps which you need to devise to accomplish the goals of the organization. It will deal with areas like vision and mission of the organization. It will talk about certain models of business management, like Porter's 5 forces model. Just an example, and you can obviously look up at so many other models. And all this is a part of strategy, where the role is to enhance efficiency based on well-defined and designed steps which the organization needs to follow, both short-term and long-term. Then agri-business management and rural management. This is another huge area where management graduates contribute. And there are schools like IRMA in Anand, Gujarat. Then IIMS, Ahmedabad offers a specific program in agri-business management. So there are schools offering these programs which prepare you to contribute to the rural fabric of the country. But such programs need very, very high levels of clarity as to why do you wish to enroll in for this kind of a program. So you should be able to project yourself as someone who is excited about this kind of contribution, who understands the cooperative system of working, who understands the challenges which companies are facing to connect with the rural fabric of the country. All this has to be shown in your statement of purpose. So this is, in brief, the various ways in which you can probably prepare a specialization in management. When you face the panel, you tell them that this is what I want to look at in management. You obviously come across as somebody who's more informed, who is more clear as to why he or she is going in for an MBA program, and this is going to be a big differentiator when it comes to your final candidature. We hope this helps you. All the best. Take care.